Welcome back. Welcome back. So today I told y'all I'm making my way through Toni Morrison's fictional catalog. I am here with the next three books that I finished, which is Jazz, Paradise, and Love. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first one that we're going to talk about, again, I'm going in the order that I read them, which is the order of publication. We're starting with Jazz. This book was written, and it's supposed to like mimic jazz music. So the prose is very lyrical. The pacing is very much dramatic in some spaces, but then it kind of evens out and smooths. It's just supposed to follow like jazz music. It's supposed to be flowy in some ways, which it is. It's non-linear. This book grabs you. The first paragraph is gonna grip you in. It's very much interesting. This was a definition of a killer like intro or grabbing intro. This book follows this, I don't want to say it's a love triangle, but it kind of is. It follows this love triangle that spirals out of control. Like it spirals out of control, and it just goes over the different people involved in it, the community outside of it. It has the same characters that you're always going to be able to like think about after you close the book. Joe Trace, his wife Violet, who they call Violent sometimes because she get out there. Out there. Follows Dorcas, the wild woman, Golden Gray. So many different characters that you can kind of grab onto and get their story. You're getting what you always get from Toni Morrison. You're getting prose. You're getting interesting characters. You're getting a plot and a story, like something to take away. It's really like thought-provoking. This is actually the second book in the Beloved trilogy. The third being Paradise, follows the aftermath of slavery and what it looks like to pick those pieces back up after everything is shattered and torn apart. What's the aftermath of that look like? That's essentially what you're getting in this Beloved trilogy. So the setting of this book is 1926 in Harlem. And it's supposed to be disjointed at times. It's supposed to be sporadic. It's supposed to be non-linear. It's hopping around just like it's like music. Like you just gotta go with the flow. And sometimes I was confused and I would go back and reread a page or two. And then I'm like, okay. And other times I might have been a little confused and I just kept reading and then it all came back full circle and I'm like, okay. But like all of her books, and I'll say this with every single one of these that I'm reading, I feel like the more you read them, the more you'll get something out of them. So if I read this book 5 times, I believe that on the 5th time, I get something new out of these books. That's how dense they are. That's how much depth there is in these books. So this book talks about marriage and the cycle that we could fall into, especially if we're not intentional. Without intentionality, where is your marriage going to be? Probably maybe not like this, but maybe if it's after slavery, might have been like this. But it talks about marriage. It talks about intentionality. It talks about what you come into marriage wanting and expecting. And how if we fixate on something so much, it can drive us mad. Like this really puts into perspective what hyperfixation actually looks like. Like you will be in your head so much it'll drive you crazy. It literally will. So this is a good representation of that. And like with all her books, this made me think about me as a black woman, as a wife, as a mom. And it just talks about the people that's caught up in love and pain and echoes of the past, of dealing with their own trauma, maybe creating some new ones along the way, but like just really following them through that. They're trying to get out of this web of trauma and they're not going to be perfect, So yeah, it follows desires and straight up obsession with some things. It's so good. It's just so much that can be said. And like all her books, it talks about survival. Sometimes you just do what you gotta do to survive, to get to that next day. So, but yeah, I like that this dealt with desperation, how that's all tied into love and longing, and how that can be wrapped up into your identity. So much can be said. I can't wait to do like a final review, because I feel like the more I sit with these books, the more comes to mind, like the more I want to say. So after I record, I'll be like, dang, I should have said XYZ. So the final review, I'll be glad to have all of my thoughts out after I've read all of the books and have more to say about that. Next we have Paradise, the third book in the Beloved trilogies. This is set in the 1970s in Oklahoma. It's in an all-black town. They kind of have their own town set apart. They're on their own ecosystem, their own economy. They have their own everything set up where they don't have to be bothered by the outside world. You kind of like an insulated community, you know? And it also starts off with a bang. Just how this one grabs you in the first paragraph, this grabs you in the first sentence. I also saw that in one of her interviews, Toni Morrison said this book was her at the top of her game. And the way that I had to reread out of all of her books, this is the one I had to reread pages out of more than any other book. It was actually like challenging. Like it was times where I had to stop. Y'all, I promise you I can read, but I'm like sitting here reading with my finger like, oh wait, okay, Zechariah, okay. Because I would get lost. Like I would actually, it's also non-linear, it's also sporadic, it jumps around, it talks about just so many different things. I had to reread some of this so much because I wanted to make sure I was getting everything straight. It's another book I feel like I can read 5 times and every time get something new out of it. This deals with grief. Again, we're dealing with the aftermath of slavery. This deals with grief and mental collapse and mental illness. It deals with traumatic experiences, like just so much. Your characters, again, you can get behind Seneca, Mavis, Billy Delia, Sally. I feel like, again, I could reread all of her books and I'm sure I can get something else out of them. I think I'm going to reread this sooner than the other books, probably this year actually, before the year is over, because I feel like even though I got a lot out of it, I still feel like there was more. Like I left some on a plate. You know, I still feel like there's something else that I was supposed to get out of here. Like with Gigi and Connie, like something. I don't know. So I'm going to reread this. It was written so well. It was like, it's literally art. It really was. So I'm going to reread this. Okay, then we have Love. This was set around the civil rights movement. This is in a beach, like a dying beach town in Florida, and it follows, I don't want to say follows, it is multi-generational. So we deal with 3 generations of women. It's multi-layered. It talks about love and how it can eat you up. It talks about obsession as well. It talks about desperation as well. How we can be so fixated on what we think is love that everything else just kind of goes out the window. I did like how you get to see like 3 generations of women. That was pretty cool. And Toni Morrison actually called this book perfect. So she said, I was trying to see what she said about her own book. She called this one perfect. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. So this one was her at the top of her writing game. And then she called this one perfect. Check your trigger warnings on all these books. This involves a prostitute. It involves a child bride. It involves trauma. and everything that comes along with that. But again, there's always like a greater takeaway from these books. It's always something to be learned. It's always something for the main characters to learn. Therefore, you as a reader to learn. Yeah, you get characters like Bill Cozy, May, Christine, Heed, Junior, Vita, Elle. All these characters stick with you. You know, they do. Like all of her books, they all stick with you. So it does go back and forth between the past and the present as far as storytelling goes. And sometimes, again, you can kind of get lost in the sauce. So just back up a little bit when you do to see, are we talking about the past or the present? Because at some point, she don't tell you. You're just going to have to catch on and know what's going on. So yeah, it deals with jealousy, betrayal, again, like I said, love, and just how tangled relationships can be. How even after someone's death, how the aftermath of those relationships can kind of play out. I thought that was pretty interesting to see. Yeah, but then, you know, I really liked how, and I think you kind of get this in all of her books, but in Love, it really shows how love itself can be healing and it can be destroying. Like, just depending on the context and who, what, when, where, why. It can be healing, it can be destroying, and what are the aftermaths of that? The aftermath of that. So, all three great. She be writing. Like, Miss Toni be writing, okay? That's all I gotta say. I can't wait to get to these next 3 books. The last 3 that I'm reading in April is A Mercy, Home, and God Help the Child. So, yeah. And just a quick overview. Let me see, just in case it matters. Jazz was written in 1992. Paradise was written in 1998. And Love was written in 2003. I don't know if that matters, but I like knowing that in videos so you can kind of see. But yeah, that's it for today. If you read these, let me know what you think. Like I said, I'm going to reread Paradise. Like, I could tell it was great, but I feel like I'm missing a couple things. So I need to go back to reread to make sure that I got it. So yeah, let me know what y'all think. See you on the next one.